adall. We are like cattle. In fact, we are more misguided. And because of the fact that the remembrance of Allah, worshipping Allah, is the essence of our purpose of creation, then whatever cancels that, where we are worshipping other than Allah's creation, this must be the worst possible sin we can commit. This is why shirk is the gravest of all sins, because it negates the very purpose of our creation. This is why it is the greatest of evils. And this is why when we said before, when we weigh Mother Teresa's good deeds and her shirk, the shirk outweighs her good deeds. Because good deeds, what we perceive as good deeds, may be done for a variety of reasons. People do good for a variety of reasons. And it is only those who truly believe in Allah that do good for the right reasons. You find people do good as long as it is convenient. You have somebody who doesn't even believe in God at all, but they will do good because it is convenient. When doing good is no longer convenient, then they'll stop doing it. Or they may do good because it gives them an in to people. They've done you a favor, so you are now obligated to them. So they do good in order to oblige you to do them favors. People do good, as I said, for a variety of different reasons. And that's why the ultimate good is to believe in Allah as He deserves to be believed, and to worship Allah as He deserves to be worshipped. Now, in terms of our purpose with regards to our existence in this world, somebody may ask, why did Allah create humankind on the earth? And Allah explained that further in the 67th chapter, verse 2. Allah said there, الَّذِي خَلَقَ الْمَوْتَ وَالْحَيَاةَ لِيَبْلُوَكُمْ أَيُّكُمْ أَحْسَنُ عَمَلًا وَهُوَ الْعَزِيزُ الْغَفُورُ. It is He who created death and life to test which of you is best in conduct, and He is the mighty, the forgiving. So our creation in this world is a part of a test which is there to bring out of us the highest of the spiritual qualities that the human being may possess. For example, generosity and contentment. These are two great qualities that everybody recognizes as being worthy of striving for. A person who is truly generous is a noble human being. People everywhere in all societies honor such individuals. A person who is content, people strive for contentment, but they strive for it through money, because they think that money and material being will bring them happiness. Happiness is contentment. You're happy with the state that you're in. But the reality is that Prophet Muhammad ﷺ said, true wealth is not having a lot of property. True wealth is spiritual contentment. This is where the true wealth lies. And Allah deliberately favored some human beings over others, as He said, وَاللَّهُ فَضَّلَ بَعْضَكُمْ عَلَى بَعْضٍ فِي الرِّزْقِ. And Allah has favored some of you over others in sustenance. And He has given us women, children, wealth as a part of the test. وَعَلَمُوا أنما أموالكم وأولادكم فتنة. Know that your wealth and children are a test. Elsewhere he said, so do not allow your wealth and children to divert you from the remembrance of Allah. They are a test. The test of what we do with what Allah has given us. Recognizing that whatever wealth, whatever property we have, this is ultimately from Allah. This is not the product of our hard work. As people sometimes like to look at it. I'm doing well, I'm living good because of my hard work. Those people are poor and destitute because they're lazy. Hey, that's a lie. If wealth were the direct consequence of hard work, then the poorest people on the earth would be the richest. That individual who gets up in the early morning from the rise of the sun and goes out and he plows those fields until there's no more light in the day. He comes home, he eats, he's so exhausted all he can do is fall to sleep. Don't tell me that the individual who sits, in the 50th story of this high rise, who just signs papers, he comes in a couple of days a week and the papers are brought, he signs it, puts a stamp on it and goes out, that he is more hard-working than an individual. No way. Wealth is something which Allah grants people. And we need to recognize it as part of the test. Because generosity can only grow, can only develop where some people have more than others. If everybody had exactly the same amount, how can you be generous? Who are you going to give to? Generosity cannot exist unless there is poverty, unless there is states where people have less than others. That's the only way generosity can come into being. So Allah has put others with less than us to test us. Will we share what we have with others? He has obliged us to give zakah as a training to do sadaqah. That we will voluntarily give from our wealth for the sake of Allah. And on the other hand, we are told not to look at those above us, because in looking at them we will become discontent. Therefore we should look at those below us, because no matter what situation we may be in, there will always be people who have less than us, who are worse off than us. So as the Prophet ﷺ said, look to those below you, not to those above you. Because in looking to those below you, it helps you to remember Allah's favor on you, and you become content. Otherwise, as he said, if a man had a valley of gold, he would desire another. For nothing will fill his mouth but the dirt of his grave. And Allah forgives those who sincerely repent. If a man had a valley of gold, he would desire another. In America they say, the grass is always greener on the other side. Same thing. Same concept. That is the nature of human beings. Never satisfied. So the person who has all the wealth possible, that person, you wonder, why are they doing these crazy things? You see, people who are the richest individuals amongst us, the movie stars, the sports stars, and their lives are just filled with all kinds of craziness. Drugs and, Elton John, homosexuality, and all this kind of stuff that is out there. You wonder how in the world people, they have all this wealth, because there is no contentment in wealth. If one doesn't understand the purpose of wealth, then you can't find contentment. The more you have is the more you want. And when you have things, you start to look at people suspiciously. When you didn't have anything, Well, everybody was all right. Somebody smiles at you, no problem. You smile back at them. Once you won the sweepstake, you're now a millionaire. Everybody who smiles at you say, well, what does he want? What does she want? They want my money. This is why they're smiling. You change. You become suspicious of everybody around you. You can't find contentment in it. There is no contentment. So, ultimately, these trials are there to develop us, for us to develop spiritually. Similarly, those people who are at the bottom, those people who don't have, who have less, etc. In that situation, we develop contentment if we deal with it correctly. If we recognize what Allah has given us, then we can be content with what we have. We don't feel bound to keep up with the Joneses, as they say. Keeping up. Well, the neighbor's got a new car, we have to have a new car. The neighbor got a this, we have to have a that. So-and-so at school, she has this. Oh, I must have that also. These kids come home, they tell the parents, so-and-so got a new this, and why can't I have one? I want to have one. This wanting what everybody else has. That contentment comes out of realizing that whatever one has, there's a blessing in it. We have more than others. When a person realizes that, then they can find contentment. And they can worship Allah as He deserves to be worshipped. And this is one of the well-known characteristics of the Muslims. I remember reading an article. It had a picture on it. It was in Somalia during the war in Somalia. Civil war, where people were killing each other and starvation, all this kind of things. All the warlords were fighting it. Then they had this picture of these American soldiers who had converted to Islam. They had built a little masjid. They were sitting in the front, foreground. They were taking their boots off to go make wudu. And the author of the article, he was asking one of them, a captain, why did you accept Islam in the middle of all of this? This is the worst possible example of Muslims, or what Islam is to be given. Here are Muslims at each other's throats. People are dying of starvation because of this, brutality and all this other kind of thing. And you became Muslim. Well, what the captain said, he said, hey, you know what? In spite of the tragedy which exists here, I found that these people could still smile. They could still be happy with simple things. He said, when I consider myself going to work on the subway in New York in the morning, and you look at the faces of the richest people on the earth, you see in them tragedy. Their faces are twisted in pain, going to work each day, another day. People don't lighten up until Friday, right? All during the week, it's a pain at work, And these are the richest people on the earth. They can't smile. So he said, this is what struck him and drew him to Islam. And that is that thing of contentment. People being able to deal with difficulties in life, knowing that, of course, there are greater difficulties in other people's life, knowing that there is good behind it even though we can't see it, that we spoke about earlier. The calamities. As Allah said, in our lives we have calamities. And those calamities serve primarily to bring out the quality of patience. Sabr. Sabr